Management Association. Thank you for joining us today on the occasion of, firstly, the launching of the book Stock Market Wisdom, authored by TMA's illustrious past president and patron CATS Anantharaman. And secondly, the honoring of TMA's illustrious vice president, whose organization, ESAP Small Finance Bank, was recently the recipient of the Global Sustainability Award 2020. We are delighted that in today's function, we have been joined by the stalwarts of banking and business in Thrissur, such as Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, MD and CEO, South Indian Bank, Mr. CVR Rajendran, MD and CEO, CSV Bank Limited, and we'll shortly be joined by Mr. VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO of Manappuram Finance Limited. This meeting is significant in another way as well. As you all know, the year that went by was one of unprecedented pain and global suffering. Today, we are celebrating the onset of a new year with a non-virtual or physical meeting being held after a very long time. Before we proceed further, a word about our sponsor, a word of gratitude to our sponsor, Mrs. Sharewealth. And now we begin our proceedings with a silent prayer. May I request all of you to please rise from your seats. Thank you. Please take your seats. In a departure from our printed agenda, we will first begin with the important item on the agenda, the launching of the book, Stock Market Wisdom, authored by our illustrious past president, CATS Anantharaman. May I now request the author to hand over a copy of the book to the chief guest, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan. And may I request our chief guest to open the cover and hand it over to our president. Ladies and gentlemen, the book is Stock Market Wisdom, authored by our illustrious past president, CATS Anantharaman. The book is available on Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, and it is fairly high up in the rankings. Oh, I'm told it's a bestseller on Amazon, ladies and gentlemen. That surely deserves applause. Thank you. Yes. The official launching of the book, Stock Market Wisdom. Thank you, sir.
This book is available here.
Oh, yeah, and not only Amazon, the book is also available here. So is it available free of cost or is there? Okay, right, sir. But anyway, the doubt had to be set at rest, you see. Thank you all. Thank you, sirs. And now we go back to the agenda with the welcome address by Engineer Vinod Manyala, our Senior Vice President.
A happy New Year to you all. President of TMA, Dr. VM Xavier. Chief guest of the day, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, the MD and CEO of South Indian Bank. Guest of honor, Mr. CV Rajendran, MD and CEO of the Catholic Syrian Bank. Our keynote speaker, just arrived, Mr. VP Nandakumar. Please speak.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. So, Mr. Nandakumar, VP Nandakumar, MD and CEO of Manappuram Finance. Mr. P.K. Vijay Kumar, IRS retired, the director of the GSA Bank. CATS Anantharaman, past chairman of CSB and the past president of TMA. Mr. Paul Thomas, MD and CEO of ISAF Small Finance Bank and our vice president. My colleagues on the dais, past presidents, TMA members, ladies and gentlemen, invited guests and friends from the media. We are about to witness a rare event, a historic event that will go down the annals of TMA. For the first time, 5 financial institution heads are seated on the dais. Our president is known for giving us surprises. And when he said that he would like to start this year with an impact, I never knew he would envisage a program of this magnitude. Welcome, dear President Dr. PM Xavier, to this program. The people of Thrissur are passionate about banking. It is an integral part of each and every one of us. The people of Thrissur are either shareholders of these banks, or they work with these banks, or they would have taken a loan, or they would have a deposit there. We are proud of this great institute. In fact, it has created wealth for the people of Thrissur. It goes to an extent where one of the shareholders, after making substantial amount of money from the sale of shares, went on to name the house as Manappuram. So this is the kind of wealth these institutes have created for the people of Thrissur. On behalf of TMA, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our chief guest, the MD and CEO of South Indian Bank, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan. Welcome, sir. Our guest of honor, the MD and CEO of CSV Bank, Mr. CV Rajendran. Welcome, sir. Our keynote speaker, the MD and CEO of Manappuram Group, Mr. VP Nandakumar, and our past president. Welcome to you, sir. As you all know, the Dhanashri Bank is now managed by 3 directors, and our very own member, Mr. PK Vijay Kumar, IRS retired, is one of them. Welcome, sir. United Nations laws is the blessing of Thrissurites. In 1985, when Mr. T.S. Anantharaman decided to come back to Thrissur for good, share trading was not known well. He took the pain to educate the people of Thrissur on share trading. And today, the book that has been released, The Stock Market Wisdom, talks about the inner secrets of how to make wealth using the points there. I'm sure this will help the people of Thrissur to create more wealth. So thank you, Mr. T.S. Anantharaman, for writing a book like this, and welcome to this meeting. A small bank with a big vision, a social bank serving the underserved. We are honoring our Vice President, Mr. Paul Thomas, the MD and CEO of CSV Bank, for achieving the Global Sustainability Award 2020. We are looking forward to your idea. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to my colleagues on the dais, the past presidents, and actually this program should have been done bigger with all our members, the 400 odd members, but unfortunately due to COVID, we are not able to accommodate them. But I'm sure they are all watching this program live. So I send a warm welcome to them. A warm welcome to Mr. Ceo Bank, who is constituting the TMA EcoStar Green Budget Award today. These kind of programs are made possible thanks to the contribution of our members. I would like to welcome our sponsor, Mr. Ramakrishnan TP, the shareholder group, for sponsoring this event. Finally, a welcome to each and one of you speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Vinod Manila. And now for the presidential address, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome TMA's President, Dr. PM Xavier.
Good evening. And happy New Year to all the members present here. Today is a unique day. It's a memorable day for TMA. You can cherish these memories throughout your life. First time in the history of TMA, we are getting all the MDs of leading banks and NBFCs in TMA meeting. We have the MD and CEO of South Indian Bank, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, MD and CEO of CSB Bank Limited, Mr. Rajendran, MD and CEO of GSA Bank, Mr. Paul Thomas, MD and CEO of Anantharaman Finance, our past president, PM Anantharaman sir, and acting MD of GSA Bank, Mr. PK Vijaykumar IRS. This time of gathering we never had in our. And also there are so many other MD and CEOs of the DAX, like Ramakrishnan of Sherman Securities, MD and CEO of Sherman Securities, like Christopher George, our past president, MD of and CEO of Hyper India Limited. So many MDs and CEOs of different companies are sitting. It's a unique occasion. I'm very glad. The very purpose of this meeting is to honor our two great leaders. One is Professor C.A. Anantharaman, who has written a book called Stock Market Wisdom. As you know, he is a person who took his CA at the age of 19, a record in India. He started his career in a college, St. Thomas College, Thrissur. Then after a few years of service in St. Thomas College, he went abroad. And he was in the UN for some time. After that, he came back to India, and it was the right time to enter into the capital market. It was a time of opening of Indian economy, and he is the godfather of capital market for the people of Thrissur as well as people of Kerala. When we talk about Mr. C.A. Anantharaman, he is a person who has proved how to create wealth by investing in securities. He is the Warren Buffett of this. He was not a real estate builder. He was not in the real estate business. He is not in the gold business, but he was only in the securities business. And wisdom comes from old people. He has proved that he could make money in investing in securities. He started a company called Peninsula Capital Market in Thrissur, and it had a very good number of members, sub-brokers, and it was acquired by Motilal Oswal for an undisclosed amount. I don't know whether Then later he started investing, cornering the shares of CSB. He started cornering the shares at the rate of 20-25 rupees per share. And
What is the present value?
at one point of time, C.A. Anantharaman and his friends were having more than 50% of the shares of Csv Bank. Maybe higher than the stake of the other gentleman called Chawla. And you know what was the deal with Fairfax? Fairfax invested 1,000 crores in Csv Bank. So that you can imagine what will be the best of C.A. I'm not disclosing. Yes, my dear friends, I had seen a joke. A person has written a book, How to Make Money. After writing that book, he approached his neighbor I need some money. So the neighbor said, you read your book so that you can understand how to make money. But in this case, it is very different. He knows the art of creating wealth, and now he's telling you how to create wealth for you. My dear friends, if you read this book, I'm sure tomorrow you will be also very wealthy people. And for inaugurating this program, so when we thought of honoring and launching this book here, our friends like Raju, then our immediate past president Sony said we had to make it a grand design. Then I thought, okay, we'll do that. So then we first approached, then we had a meeting here. For me, I had a meeting with Mr. Ramakrishnan, our Chairman Securities here. So I shared this message to him, sir. We had to honor our CATS Anantharaman because he was with the CATS Anantharaman. Then he said, sir, we will make it a grand issue, a grand program because the book written by him was is a very excellent book. Now, my friends, it is the bestseller in Amazon. Bestseller. And very interestingly, Ramakrishnan has got nearly 300 books already from Amazon, the publisher. I mean, the taxman is the publisher. And he's going to buy another 400 books more from the publisher. So you can see his interest in this book. And he also told me, firstly, he said, I will seek some sponsors. I will approach Kalyan or somebody else. Then finally he said, Xavier sir, I will do that sponsorship. What would be the? Thus he came forward. Thank you, Mr. Ramesh, without any hesitation. Then our next task is that we have to find out a good person to inaugurate this meeting. So we thought I will approach the new CEO of South Indian Bank, whom we have not met so far. And it is our custom that to meet all the CEOs when they take charge as the MD of different banks. So fortunately, the brilliant MD, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan is the CEO, and he's a very pakka gentleman and a very learned person. He's a very good orator. So we went there to wish him along with Mr. VP Joseph, our past president, and our senior vice president Vinod Manila and myself went there. And he received us. And he said, we said that we want to get your patronage because the Shaping Young Mind programs of PMA, every time, both the South Indian Bank and Federal Bank are competing each other to sponsor the program. For every program, they are giving us 10 lakh rupees for the sponsoring the Shaping Young Mind. So we asked our new MD of South Indian Bank had to continue this, he has agreed. And also, he has promised to come for the launching of this program. And he's a good orator, that's very important. So he has promised. Then I had an opportunity to visit the CFP office and I had an opportunity to have a discussion with Rajendran sir there. And I told him that your former CEO, former chairman is launching him. So he said, I have already read half of that book. It's a wonderful book. Then I asked him, I thought you come and grace that occasion. So he said, I'm ready to come. But unfortunately, yesterday, I had a message that he has made some beauty therapy in his head. So he said he will be skipping the program. Then I asked our past president, CATS Anantharaman, to contact him. So he has kindly, I told him when he came, we are not looking what is outside your head, we are looking inside your head. A very brilliant person, very brilliant. When I was attending the meeting at CFP Bank, I really understood my weaknesses. Our knowledge is far less than what Mr. Rajendran sir. So great person. Sir, really appreciate.
955.
Vice President Mr. VP Nandakumar. Again, I had a chance to have an interaction with him. So I said, sir, we have a program. Why don't you come and bless this occasion? He said, without any incident, they survive. Because for all these people, this TMA is very close to their heart. It was Mr. VP Nandan was who gave us 25 lakhs for starting our buying our TMA. And our then President Murali Ramakrishnan was there, and also the convener was our past President Ceo of Csv Bank. Only because of them only we could construct or we could buy a management house for TMA. It's one of the rarest LMAs in India having a management house of its own. Then again, I thought I can be called the MD of the GSA Bank, and he's our MC member. He said, "Sir, I am not an MD. I am only 1/3 MD of the GSA Bank." So I asked him what should be the designation I have to put. Then he said, "You put only director." Then I said, "If you are the managing committee member, we would like to put the name MC member." Then he said, "Okay, sir, I like that only because I attach more value for the membership of MCA or the member of TMA or MC of TMA. I want to be known as the MC member of TMA." Sir, I really congratulate your attitude. Then we have our chairman, founder, a philanthropist. Though he is an evangelist, he is a philanthropist. He has proved. He has got the Global Sustainability Award, and it is given by Gajendra Singh Shekhawat, along with the Australian Minister for Foreign Affairs, Murali Ramakrishnan. And it was a very wonderful program. And he is serving the downtrodden people in India. Around 45 lakh people, 45 lakh families are benefited by the social banking. He is running this business model with PPP called the People, Planet, and Prosperity. Sir, you are doing a great job for the mankind in India, especially in the places like what is happening in Bangladesh. Bangladesh is progressing only because of microfinance, and to some extent, Mr. Paul Thomas is also doing a great job for the benefit of the people in India. So I thought I will honor Mr. Paul Thomas also along with this program. So our team is very friendly with me, and they said we'll make it a grand gala event. And I told our senior secretary told us that tomorrow we will have a program, and 13th we have a program, and in February again our chief guest has agreed to come to address you in detailed manner because he is a very good orator. Well, because his private secretary is my student. He was working with the old CEO and the present CEO. He made a remark to me, "Sir, he's the best faculty, he's the best person, he's the best orator." Then I was so particular that he should be invited for the meeting at TMA, and he has promised to come in the month of February. So we'll have another wonderful program during the month of February. And a lot of people are waiting in the queue to come and address the people of TMA. I don't want to extend my speech further because I've been given only eight minutes for the talk, though I am the president. So I wish you all the best for this program, and I congratulate both Mr. Ceo of Csv Bank sir for launching the book, and the book is available here at a subsidized rate. You can contact Mr. Ramakrishnan, who has bought the book, and he will be buying another 4 books. So you can buy the book if you want. I'm buying 1 book. Then our congratulating our Vice President, Mr. K. Paul Thomas, also for obtaining this kind of award. Let him get more awards because he is very young and he is going to going for the public issue very soon. He said he is also going for the public issue. And the people in Thrissur are very lucky that you can invest money in all these securities. You need not go to Reliance. You need not go to Adani. You can make money by sitting here itself. When you read the book of Ceo of Csv Bank, he is explaining how people in Anantharaman has made money, how people in other banks have made money. You can see the 20 rupees Capitalist Union Bank is now quoted for 222 rupees. 22 rupees. And now a brilliant leader has come to South Indian Bank. It's the right time to invest in South Indian Bank. Ramakrishnan was telling me there will be a turnaround in the values of South Indian Bank. Right time to invest in share. You will be missing that bus if you are not investing in South Indian Bank. So get ready to invest in all these 5 institutions: Capitalist Union Bank, CSB Bank, South Indian Bank, Untitled Finance, GSA, which is going to be listed, and also the GSA Bank. It's a bottom fishing time. Now it's the right time to invest, and I wish all the members of TMA will be very wealthy people in the coming days. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, President Dr. V.M. Xavier. That was a rousing, energizing speech. Ladies and gentlemen, we have received a request for shifting a couple of awkwardly parked cars. KL08BP9554, which is a Wagon-R, and KL752949, Honda Amaze. Owners of these cars may either give the keys to one of the attendants and they will park it. We have also received a request that a Ritz car is actually on. The engine is on. KL08 AS5551, Maruti Ritz. The car is on apparently. So all these owners may please contact the staff here. Thank you. And now we'll get back to our agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor is Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, MD and CEO of South Indian Bank. To introduce our chief guest, please welcome Mr. VP Joseph, past president of TMA and fittingly a retired general manager of the same bank.
Good evening, everybody. The time given to me is only 3 minutes. So I am entering into my assigned duty. I have the pleasant duty of introducing Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, MD and CEO of South Indian Bank, our chief guest to you. Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan is a BTech in chemical engineering and also holds PG diploma in finance and marketing from IIM Bangalore. He has 34 years of experience in banking and financial sector services. He has worked before joining ICICI Bank with the GE Capital TFS Limited, SRF Finance Limited, Spartech Engineering Fund, Canara Bank Venture Capital Fund Limited, SPIC Limited, in various capacities. In 1999, he joined ICICI Bank. During his tenure, spanning more than 2 decades in ICICI, he has held various key posts, including Chief Executive, Hong Kong, and Regional Head, North Asia, Sri Lanka, Middle East, and Africa in the Senior General Manager's cadre. Before joining SIB, he was heading a business transformation project of SME business of ICICI Bank. He joined the SIB, our South Indian Bank, as advisor on 1st of July 2020, and later on 1st of October in the same year, he was elevated to the position of MD and CEO of this 92 years old South Indian Bank. This visionary banker and financial sector services expert has entered SIB with a substantial knowledge and experience in the various facets of banking, namely retail banking, SME, corporate, project finance, international businesses, risk management, venture capital, etc., to take SIB to the next level. With these few words, I introduce Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, our chief guest to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, past President, Mr. VP Joseph. Ladies and gentlemen, we now have our distinguished chief guest to address the gathering. Please welcome Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, MD and CEO, South Indian Bank Limited.
Good evening. Let me start by wishing you all a fabulous 2021. My distinguished colleagues on the dais and media members. It's a great privilege to be sitting here amongst the veterans in Thrissur and in the company of chief executives of so many financial institutions in this place. It's just about 2 weeks since I entered this new place of my living, and I'm really honored to be amongst you, and it's a great privilege to be with you, and I really consider it as a great privilege to be releasing book written by veteran Mr. Anantharaman. So let me. I was told that I need to give a speech, so let me just quickly get into what I thought I should share. A few things which I thought could be of interest to you. One thing which I think all of us are experiencing this period is an unprecedented event. I think this is a once in 100 years kind of event, and I think the whole global economies are going through unprecedented times, and India is no exception. But what is great about India is, to the surprise of I think almost all the economies, I think the revival which we are witnessing, I think is phenomenally good. When lockdown was started sometime in February and March beginning, we saw a huge slowdown of economy, and the first quarter of this year we saw degrowth of close to minus 24%, which is again unprecedented in our times. And to all our surprise, I think the second quarter saw a revival, and by the end of September it was much lesser to something like negative 7.4% degrowth. What is actually very pleasant to see is that Q3 is already started showing signs of revival, and Q4 is going to be even better. With this, the economists, I've been going through a few reports, and it's really pleasing to see that India is actually poised for one of the best recovering emerging countries amongst the emerging countries in the world. And we are probably looking at something like 6.5 or 6% negative growth for the full year. But what is interesting is that the pent-up demand during this year is definitely going to be witnessed by all of us, which would probably be evident even in Q4, but it will be more evident, I think, in the coming year. So all those industries, in fact, I was just going through a few statistics of our economy. It's almost, I think, 18 or 19 industries out of the 24 various manufacturing sectors have started showing positive growth year on year, which is a really commendable one. And it's just a question of time before we actually start seeing activity which will probably be reaching pre-COVID levels. But if you recall, even pre-COVID, we had a little bit of a slowdown. The economy was actually moving towards sub 5% kind of growth. So to really say that we reached pre-COVID is not a great thing, but I really believe that with this resumption in pent-up demand, we'll probably see much better growth in the coming year. So what is in it for us during this time? I mean, how a country like India can really exploit this opportunity when the whole world is still struggling with this, probably the secondary wave of infection, etc. But I happened to read a very interesting study done by McKinsey through their global institute, which came out very recently, which talks about how our country can really exploit the next 10 years to really become a global power force. It's a very interesting insight to say that the next 10 years, we'll be adding almost like 90 million jobs will get added, of which close to 60 million will be from new workforce which will be getting into work for the first time, which means we are talking about millennials and zillennials who will be probably studying now or who might be completing their studies, who will be getting into workforce in this decade. So what a country like India can do at this juncture, really exploit this almost unique opportunity which we have today. For an economy of 2.5 trillion to really catapult into a powerhouse, I think we need to do few things right. Even when we were looking at early 2000 into mid 2000, I mean 2009, 10, etc. I always felt that probably we missed a bus because due to not due to anything external, but due to our own internal issues. As we say, we put our own goals, and we missed a great opportunity at that time. But I think situation is again ripe, and I think we need to do everything right, maybe for the next 10 years to really exploit this very unique opportunity, which can probably catapult India into a really a powerful country. But what it means is that next 10 years, we need to really look at a growth of close to 8.5% GDP year on year, which is what is going to create a lot of jobs for this 90 million new workforce which will be joining. This doesn't include the 60 million women workforce will be joining in this period. I think I'm sure all of us will be experiencing even in our work environment. I could see it very clearly in our own bank. Most of the branches today have 45 to 50% of our workforce is women. And as a bank, we are, I think, close to some 45% of the workforce is women. So I think it's a really an unprecedented situation where a lot more opportunities are going to get created, a lot more new workforce is going to get added. But for this to happen, I think we need to really consistently grow at a GDP growth of 8 to 8.5% starting from maybe 2022 onwards for the next 8 years. But this is actually not something which is impossible. If you really look at the opportunity which we have as a country, and if you look around, even in the Asian economies, and even in Middle East and in African countries, you find that there is so much of new respect for our country. In fact, I just recall the time when I was based at Hong Kong when we were actually setting up our Shanghai office in China, where we were upgrading our rep office into a branch. And for the first time, I could see whole lot of interest shown by the so-called regulators in these countries, and they were closely looking at what's happening in India. In fact, they were more keen to know what is happening in India than actually sharing what do they want from me. In fact, I recall fondly discussions where we used to have a translator for almost 1.5 hours, me talking English and they translating in Chinese, and in turn they reply in Chinese and again getting translated in English to me. The conversation used to go for about 1.5 to 2 hours in trying to understand what India is doing. I think after the first tenure of the present government, definitely that interest which got created and the pace at which we were expected to grow, probably there was a little bit of disappointment, I think, in the international scenario arena. But I guess still we are far well positioned in comparison to many other countries. When developed countries are talking about less than 1% kind of growth, and we were still talking about 5% and 6% kind of growth. But now I think time is ripe for us to really exploit this new opportunity which is coming up. So I am in our own bank, and I'm sure it's happening across the banking system in India. I think we are actually looking at a great disruption happening, particularly in the area of AI and digital. I think I've been to a few seminars where people are actually talking about whether traditional bankers will be irrelevant in the next 3 to 5 years' time. That's the kind of disruption which is happening, and it's nothing. It's not something which we cannot anticipate, because if you look at the new workforce, I think pretty much everything is today being done using digital, and they don't know any other way of even placing orders or buying anything. So if that's the kind of consumers you are going to have, and if you are going to have that kind of workforce working for you, it's not a surprise that we need to really move strides ahead in digital banking and in area of artificial intelligence, etc. I think in banking, a lot of interesting studies, interesting work is happening in this area. In fact, my last assignment in ICS was actually to use machine language and artificial intelligence to transform SME business, where we were creating credit engine for assessing SME loan cases. As you know, SME appraisal is one of the trickiest one in comparison to either a corporate or a retail. Retail pretty much would be template driven, and corporate is more of financials. Whereas SME, you need to have the touch and feel of the customer, and it's a combination of retail and corporate. This unique thing which we were trying to do where McKinsey was consulting us was a very, very unique experience. And I feel it's just the starting of how the workforce, how the banking, and how even the entire system will get disrupted in the days and months to come. So I am really looking forward to this exciting decade which is ahead of us. And I have no doubt that this time India will definitely make use of this unique positioning which it is in. And I see that the young force today is actually looking forward to having glorious lifestyle, glorious living conditions, and I'm sure we should be, if we act responsibly, we'll be able to meet with the expectations of this young force. And organizations like this, I'm sure, is a place where a lot of bright minds come together and share experiences. And today, one thing which is very clear is that no longer I think we see any other institution as a competition, because I think competition is not definitely between us. I think it's between us and what the situation which is arising. I think we need to be together. In fact, more than ever, we are seeing competition, so-called competitors getting together and working as a single unit and really creating wonderful opportunities for the welfare of humanity. And this is no exception for us. I think we should all contribute to each other's growth, and we should really create something which is going to be very exciting for the next generation. I once again thank the opportunity given to me, and I really look forward to engaging with more of you in the days and months to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. And thank you also for that upbeat outlook on the Indian economy. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest of honor is another leader from the banking industry, Mr. CVR Rajendran, MD and CEO of CSB Bank Limited. To introduce our guest of honor, please welcome Engineer Francis George, Honorary Joint Secretary, TMA.
Thank you, Ranjan. Good evening, dignitaries on the dais, my fellow managing committee members, guests, valued guests, and members of the media. It's an honor for TMA today that so many banking stalwarts are here this evening. And it's an honor for me to introduce one of the stalwarts, Mr. CVR Rajendran. He is the MD and CEO of CSB Bank. Now, CSB Bank, as you all know, it's very near and dear to all of us. It's been in existence, it's been around for 100 years. It completed 100 years last year, in 2020. And it's been in the forefront of retail banking and NRI banking for all of us here, many of us here, and for airlines. Now, banking is a very heavily regulated industry. It has its ups and downs, and the ups and downs of banking are closely correlated with the ups and downs of the economy. So post-2008 global financial meltdown, the ups and downs in banking has been pronounced in India also. Most of the banks have gone through a lot of trouble, especially related to capital adequacy, with the quality of the assets leading to soaring NPS, and also with the adaptation of technology, both for the employees as well as the customers. Now, CSB is no exception. CSB also had all these challenges. And it was in the middle of all these challenges that Mr. Rajendran took over the reins of CSB Bank. And he has done an extremely good job in a very short span of time. He joined the bank in 2016 December. And in a little over a year, he was able to turn around the banking operations. He was able to bring about the organizational transformation required for impressing a heavyweight investor like Fairfax Holdings. Like Xavier sir mentioned earlier, Fairfax put in 1,200 crores, a whopping 1,200 crores to CSB Bank. And now, mind you, the valuation was 150% of the book value. That's no mean feat. It's a great achievement. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Rajendran. The recent achievement of the more recent achievement of CSB Bank is that it's gone public, and the debut was very impressive. The soon after opening, the prices soared by another, I think, 55% or something, if I remember it right. So it's been doing pretty well since Mr. Rajendran took over, and that's a feather on the cap for him as well as for Trish. Going a little more into the background of Mr. Rajendran, he started his career after his graduation and post-graduation in commerce from the Madurai Kamaraj University. He started his career in 1978. He joined corporation banking. The hardworking and committed person that he is, and the quick learner, he rose through the ranks. He became the general manager of corporation banking, and when his tenure entered in 2012. In 2012, in March 2012, he joined Bank of Maharashtra as the executive director. He continued till December 2013. Thereafter, he joined Andhra Bank as the chairman and managing director. That was until April 2015. After that, he joined the Association of Mutual Funds of India, AMFI, as the CEO. And after that, as we all know, he is now the MD and CEO of Catholic State Bank. In the banking industry, he has been associated for over 40 years with the banking industry. He's a real stalwart. He has experience ranging from, right from operations to product and process engineering to information technology. His expertise across the board in all these areas. And his banking experience covers everything from CASA accounts to collection and payment services, treasury operations, merchant banking, asset quality management, corporate and industrial finance, international banking, and client regulation. So it's pretty much everything in the banking world. So that's Mr. Rajendran for you in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer Francis George. And now to address the gathering, please welcome our guest of honor, Mr. CVR Rajendran, MD and CEO, South CSB Bank Limited.
Good evening. I hope I don't need a mic, right? You're able to hear me? Yes. See, I'm in the market for the past 40 years. In 1980, I started my investing career. And I continued as an individual investor for quite a long time. And I'm from a community which is known for share market investing in the country, from the southern parts of Tamil Nadu. DAD Pari, Indian Bank, Indian Overseas Bank, Banga Bajara, all these banks are started by my community. Like what Thrissur is known for banking, even my place is known for banking. We started almost 40 banks in those days. Right? Not only here, even in Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, in all those places, we are the bankers. So we were the first investors in the country. If you take any of the old companies like Tisco, Telco, these kind of companies, lot of shares are held by the originally issued shares. So I'm not new to the market. Incidentally, in 1996, I joined the equity division of Corporation Bank and became an equity dealer. Subsequently, I became a merchant banker. In 2002, I became the treasury chief of Corporation Bank, which is a position I held for 8 years. So for 8 years, I was managing almost 50,000 crores for Corporation Bank, investing in bond market, equity market, PE market, on all those places. And I was also a managing director of a company called Bank Securities, which was primarily into the investment in the government securities. After retirement, also I went to AMFI for 1.5 years. And so my career in the banking and the career in the market is quite long. See, if you want to read a book in the market, immediately what people will advise is the Intelligent Investor better. Right? All of us have a copy. It is like Gita. It is like Bible. Of course, I should not quote Bible, but people read Bible. In Gita, we don't read the Gita. All of us will have a Gita in our house, right? Like one more picture of Swami Jaya. One more, because we have thousands of gods, one more god is the Gita book, nobody reads. The Intelligent Investor is one such a book. Everybody buys it, nobody will read it. But even if you read, you cannot understand. It's such a big book, right? So when I read Mr. Anantharaman's book, it is not easy to write a book on the stock market and sell it. isn't it? On the CNBC, there are so many experts coming every day. Everybody is writing a book. They are faced in the market, easy to sell for them. Even they are not able to sell. The ET now, there are so many people who are coming every day. They are writing books. They are trying to sell. Probably the maximum number of books are written only about the stock market. So to venture into writing a book on stock market itself is a great venture. You need a lot of entrepreneurial spirit to do that. Writing a book, sitting at the resort like now, and becoming the best seller in the Amazon is a great achievement. I cannot believe it. Everybody says you cannot time the market, right? Nobody has been consistently successful in timing the market. Mr. Anantharaman is an exception. Right? He timed the market for his book also. When the index goes up only, you can sell a book on stock market. The stock market tanks, nobody will buy a book on the stock market. Right? He timed the publication also in such a way. And having a good merchant banker is very important. Taxman is a merchant banker for him. Who put the book in the Amazon. Amazingly, so many copies are sold in a very short. Normally, I don't read. None of us read nowadays. Reading habits are gone down a lot. Only visual media is because I have agreed to come here. I read the book. Nobody can explain the stock market in such a simple language. What Mr. Anantharaman has explained. If you are not started trading in the stock market, just simply buy the books. It won't take more than 2 days to read the book. No simulation, no exercise, no formulas, nothing. Right? Simple book. But he has covered every individual aspect of stock market, which is enough. He need not read any other book. He can start reading, and he can also buy the next bank, not Catholic Syrian Bank, for 20 rupees, and you can see the 200 rupees. Right? That wisdom is there. Stock market, we are all known for tips, right? I lived in the Dalal seat for almost 14 years in my career. My branch is in Dalal seat itself, opposite the. So we are all known for tips. Every day, what Ketan Barak is giving a tips, or Harshad Mehta is giving a tip, or what Motilal is buying. These kind of tips only we serve, right? All of us are known for tips. It's not a book on tips. This is stock market wisdom. The most difficult thing to manage in the market is yourself. When I went to Treasury, I just called my people and told him what is the most difficult. The discipline. He talks about the discipline in this. You cannot time the market, right? So why the stock price of Catholic Syrian Bank was listed at 300 rupees? I don't know. It was a loss-making bank at that time. Why it went down to 95 rupees in March? Again, I don't know why it has got to 95 rupees. Why it is selling for 240 rupees today? Again, I'm not aware of it. Market is only a perception. Right? What perception you create in the market? What is the Manappuram share price today morning? Nanda Kumar comes on the CNBC and talks to them. By the end, he finishes his 3 minutes conversation, the price goes up by 3%. He is successful in creating a perception about Manappuram, right? Not like in 3 minutes he is improving the performance. He is improving the perception about the market. He talks about the perception. Right? What are the fundamentals? You have to look at it. How to look at a multi-bank. How to stay invested. I remember when I started my career in investing in 1980, it was a broker called Krishna Swami in Chennai. I was living in Pollachi. I was a branch manager of Pollachi. We have to make a trunk call. STD was called. Trunk call and give the orders in the morning. In the evening, again, we have to book a trunk call and get what is bought or what is sold for. That person used to say, Rajendran, profit is like a thief. Right? When you see him, capture it. Otherwise, he'll run away. Right? I was always successful in timing the market for purchase. I'm a good purchaser. But I'm a poor seller. I can quote hundreds of cases where I bought it at the right time and not sold it. Reliance Communication. I bought it at 120 rupees. It went up to 800 rupees. I have not sold. Because I don't know how to sell. When to sell. Again, it has come to 4 rupees. It's not when you enter. When you exit is also important. Exit strategies. When I was reading, almost he has captured all the mistakes which I might have committed in all the 40 years. Right? The treasury always said, People take a lot of risk in treasury, right? If you keep on questioning, oh, you have made losses, no treasury man will function. I always tell my people, I will never question you. If you're not committing the same mistake, right? You should not commit the same mistake. You must learn from your mistakes and move forward. So by the time you learn through your mistakes, your capital is not. That is the problem. See, if you read this book, you will learn all the mistakes which a person can do in the market, and your investing will be successful. You will learn from his mistakes or his investor's mistakes. I don't think he would have made a mistake. So then you will be much better. So 2-3 examples. I like the way he quoted the examples. The Manappuram. Suppose Manappuram Finance has come out for the IPO when the price is 150 rupees. Right? Whether the investor would have made so much of money, whatever be the return coming out of it, you cannot. The company which came until, I don't know, what is the price at which it came? Initial public offering? 10 rupees. 10 rupees. HDFC came at 10 rupees, you remember? HDFC also came at 10 rupees. Right? So when the stock is available at 10 rupees, believing there is a story in Anantharaman. That is what he talks about intuition in the book. How do you identify the multi-bagger? It's not Anantharaman was a star on the day, right? But we will know that Anantharaman is going to become a star by intuition. Not by records, not by the merchant banker. Have you ever read the prospectus? I have come out in the public issue. Right? There was a team working on it. My board members asked me, Mr. Rajan, have you read it? Not even single line. 1,500 pages. Who is going to read? Whether any investor is going to read, we will read who is advising us. Whether Economic Times is recommending, CNBC is recommending, whether Motilal is investing, that is what we follow, right? So the art is that identifying the right person. You identify the right management and invest, you will make a multiplier. I think mic is not working. So when I went to the treasury, what I requested by people is they said that sorry, you have to create a library. I told them first we will buy some books on the psychology of the dealer. Psychology of the dealer is very important. What runs in your mind is much more important than what runs in the CNBC screen. So I went to the National Institute of Bank Management and requested them, can you give me some books on psychology? The fellow took me to a bureau and told, these are all the books on psychology. Believe me, there are 24 excellent books on psychology, on the stock market dealer psychology. When to buy, when to sell, how to put a stop loss, and how to get out of the market, when to sell, importantly, right? That's very important. And at what time you must be greedy. When everybody is afraid, you must be greedy. When everybody is greedy, and the shoe polish fellow also talks about the stock market, you must exit the stock market. Probably this is the time. You may have to exit and they re-enter later, right? The gut feel. And in spite of all these things, a loss comes. The mindset to take the losses and book it at the earliest, the capital will not be eroded. All these things are described in this book. I never imagined in an 180 pages book, you can cover all the problems which I might have faced in my career of 20 years. Right? It's an excellent book. I must congratulate him for writing this book and recording. And he was our chairman in Catholic Syrian Bank. When I came to Catholic Syrian Bank, you must understand the circumstances. OEF, the Fairfax Lake company was given 51% stake. Catholic Syrian Bank was called as a distressed bank. Distressed bank. Because it has exhausted all the means of raising capital. We went on raising capital and went on incurring losses. Right? You raise the capital, equal amount of losses. The first 94 years of history, bank has made a cumulative profit of 415 crores. In the next 4 years, we have made a cumulative loss of 486 crores. This is history, right? 99 years. We are in the 100. So no investor except Mr. Anantharaman, nobody else has made money in that. Right? Edelweiss was having about 23% stake, and he sold the stake to the people at 333 rupees. He bought it. When he bought it is a different story. When the price was 20 rupees and the earning per share was 40%, he purchased it, right? Otherwise, everybody else who bought it from Edelweiss bought it at 333 rupees only to see the price is going to 33. For that also there is no liquidity. So the bank has exhausted all the means of raising capital. Raghuram said that now nobody can save. Like only that GSA Bank has come to take over that national asset. Because no Indian people are interested in it anymore. So all Indian interest is died out. So you take. He was in the board for 7 years at that time. He became the chairman. So we went to Fairfax. Fairfax was approved. And when we came into the Fairfax, of course, for pricing issues, we could not materialize the deal. The deal was cancelled. RBI insisted that you must go to IPO market. I'm a merchant banker myself. I know the IPO market. Right? For a bank like this with so much of a loss-making history, how can you approach an IPO market? I convinced them that we will go for a QAP issue. Then it was Mr. Anantharaman who led the team as a chairman. And we went and met about 37 investors globally in Singapore, in other countries, Hong Kong and other places. The day in which he described about the bank, right? Otherwise the entire description available in the public domain is not favorable for me to sell the shares. He described about the history of Thrissur, the entrepreneurial spirit of Thrissur, how these 5 banks have come up, and what is the background of it. What is the loyalty of its customers to this bank? Why this bank will survive? In spite of making so much losses, nobody has taken the money and gone out. We are a family bank for every Malayali in the country. All these stories we used to describe and convince the people that there is a good story behind it. This bank will survive. We got 7 investors from Singapore who has agreed to invest at 140 rupees. After agreeing, they were trying to do some arm twist to get some benefits. He got irritated and said that, no, why don't we try again the Fairfax? I went back to Fairfax, convinced them. The company which was not willing to pay 95 rupees was willing to pay 140 rupees at the time. We brought him back and it became history. 1,200 crores has come. There is no need for raising capital. But again, the Reserve Bank said that you have to list the bank. There's no need to list. I went back to him and told him I have to list the bank. Fairfax is not willing to sell. So we have to only do the offer for sale. Can you please give your shares for offering to the public? He has not even thought for a moment. Many people have refused to give it. He gave it to, okay, whatever price you are selling, sell it. Listing is important. I got the shares from him and many other people. I told Mr. Anantharaman has given, then it becomes easier for me to convince other investors. Got the support of everyone. We came out with the public issue. So the entire turnaround story of the Syrian Bank, he has a major role to play. He is a person who helped me in establishing myself. He is a person who brought the confidence in the investors that this bank will survive. Actually, when investors look at it, it is not this. It is a present management who say look at it. When the Southern Bank, Murali joined, I said immediately how the market has started here. And Murali's name announced itself. The 4 rupee share has started moving up and became 8 rupees, 9 rupees, 10 rupees. Because ultimately it is a management's credibility, the transparency which counts in the market. And to prove the transparency of our bank, and the credibility of the bank, we have put the face of Mr. Anantharaman as the face of Catholic Syrian Bank to sell the entire success of the Catholic Syrian Bank publication goes to him. So I am highly indebted to him as an organization and as an MD of the bank. Coming back to our ESOP Bank, Paul. I always wonder, Chandrasekhar Ghosh of Bandhan Bank is a good friend. There is a book written by Tamal Bandyopadhyaya about Chandrasekhar Ghosh. Bandhan, a bank in the making. If anyone of you have the time, read it. It's excellent. This man himself is an MFI employee. Paul was never a GM before starting the government, right? He was not a GM, right? He was a MFI employee, drawing 800 rupees. So, Chandrasekhar Ghosh was having 800 rupees salary as an MFI employee. And who, when he was in the job, started MFI business along with a colleague. working and doing, and subsequently he came out and started the company. How within 25 years, Bandhan Bank has become history. And today, Chandrasekhar Ghosh is worth more than 60,000 crores. A person who started with 800 rupees of salary is worth 60,000 crores. That is the fifth valued bank in the country. When I retired from Andhra Bank, all my community people came to me and said that we don't have a bank for the community. We will start, we will give you the capital. You must lead that. I was not very confident about it. So I went to the Global Trust Bank Executive Director, Shubhasri. He was in Hyderabad at the time. So I met him and asked him, you tell me why Global Trust Bank could not succeed? Because it was such a celebrated bank in those days. He said, our chairman at the time was a brand by himself, but even with his brand, only 5,000 rupees we could raise as capital. We cannot raise much, not capital, deposit. Beyond that, we could not grow. Our growth ambitions were more, we could not do it. And HDFC Bank came, ICICI Bank came, they are all supported by institutions, right? HDFC is such a big institution for years, 30 years, right? ICICI is a big institution for 30 years. They came in. How much of deposits they raised during the first 5 years? Bandhan Bank has raised in the first year. Not supported by any institutions and all. Chandrasekhar Ghosh cannot even speak fluently at that point of time, right? The MFI employee. But the market identifies there is a great story behind him and invested in him. Today he is worth 60,000 crores. Take it from me, book in advance. Paul's net worth will be 60,000 crores. We'll end up another 3 years. MFI is a great story, right? When we went for the public issue, I tell the people that I am leader in the gold, I'm doing gold loan business, not leader. The gold loan, speaking. So I'm also in the gold loan business. So how much you are charging? 11%. But if NIM is 11%, NIM means net interest margin. No, my rate of interest is 11%. He has a NIM of 11%. He has 11% NIM. So that is why the valuation is so much, 12,000 crores, right? So his NIM is also 11%. Highly profitable business. The simple businesses, the ordinary businesses, which is taking care of the bottom of the pyramid, are highly profitable businesses in this country. Because 90% of the people are below the bottom of the pyramid, right? So naturally, Paul will definitely become a multi-millionaire, and he will support us to build a palace for your Tirupur Management Association. Not obviously. Right? So not only for his commercial success, but also for his social contribution, right? What is the social impact is very important. Today he is getting an award. My best wishes for him. And he has a great way to. I'm not joking. One day, Paul will emerge like Bandhan Bank's Chandrasekhar Ghosh, and he will become the richest person in Kerala. And Nandakumar, how he has created the wealth, described there, was Palkar person, right? Who has started buying the shares, was described in the book. Then it's in Kitex, right? Kitex, how he has started. Kitex again, I not met the MD. I'm not an impressive guy. Most of the successful people cannot speak successfully. Those who are speaking well are not successful. And my reading all along is, if he is an highly educated fellow, he should not invest in this. Right? If he is come from the Gujarati families, if he is from the businessman, if he is a straight spot investor, he is the right person to invest. Right? All the highly educated people are familiar with the risk management. They find risk in everything, right? Again, Anantharaman is an exception. In spite of being a chartered accountant at 19 years, he has not seen the risk in everything, he has seen the opportunity in everything. Most of us fail to see the opportunity. Our education system only highlights the risk. I always tell. So in my community, as I said, we have not started schools and colleges. We have started university. The first university in the South India was Annamalai University. Second university was Alappa University. Third was Tyagaraja Universities. All these things are started by my community. But as a policy, our children are not allowed to sit. We are clear. Education is meant for Brahmin families who will study and work for us. We will give the process. Somehow during the course of the years, we changed our policy and we all become educated people. So I become a coolie. My son is getting little better coolie than me. But once I have started educated, you all become coolies. Our education system today develops only coolies, not entrepreneurs. In spite of that, if some people have become entrepreneurs like Mr. Anantharaman, like Mr. Anantharaman, like Mr. Paul, they are all exception. Because you must know how to unlearn, After learning, they have unlearned everything they have learned. That is why they are successful. Those people who retained all the learning remained unsuccessful. Continue to get coolie even after retirement of as a coolie. That is my life, right? So entrepreneurship is very important. And Kerala is known for the entrepreneurship. Many more, even though the political environment is not very favorable here. All the Keralites outside Kerala will be highly successful, right? If they go out of Kerala, they have all the opportunities. But becoming successful in Kerala itself is a big challenge, which very few people have achieved it, like Nandakumar, like Paul, like our few more companies, Kitex, all these companies. And I have great respect for them. And I wish that Crystal Management Association should develop many more entrepreneurs and see them sponsoring more and more events and more and more building for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was straight from the heart and a pleasure to listen to. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the second core item of our agenda today. We are honoring Mr. K. Paul Thomas, MD of ESAP Small Finance Bank, whose organization was recently the recipient of the Global Sustainability Award 2020. As a symbol of our esteem, a memento will be handed over to Mr. K. Paul Thomas by our guest of honor, Mr. C.V.R. Rajendran. May I request them to please come forward, and may I also request the President to join them. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the keynote address. Please welcome Mr. V.P. Nandakumar, past President, TMA, and MD and CEO, Manappuram Finance Limited.
President of TMA, Dr. Sagar. Aggies, who are seated here. Mr. Murali, Mr. Ramakrishnan. The people who are going to be honored, already honored today. Mr. P.S. Anantharaman, the Paul Thomas, and my dear colleagues in TMA and friends. Good evening to all of you. Today, we are all meeting after a long time. I thought that attendance would be low and people of our age may not be there. But what I see here, people of our age are more in there. So, I hope we all may be moving like this. And for us, there cannot be the requirement of a vaccine. Already herd immunity would have occurred. Today, we are very happy. Our patron, we always consider him as our keeper. Mr. Anantharaman, who has been with the TMA in his second team, has written a fantastic book, Stock Market Wisdom, with which we all can be wise. And we are really happy to know that the book he has written has been accepted by the mass, as is evident by the very fact that the copies are sold and through Amazon, and it has turned out to be the bestseller. So very great to hear. For me, I have a very long association even though I have not invested at all. I have not invested in any stock. But in my entrepreneurial journey, I used to consult him for the last several years, almost 30 years. So he has been associated with my company, one of them, in its beginning. He has been our director, and during the board meetings, even otherwise, he used to guide us in the right direction. And his directions of many of these, whatever has been we discussed, even I remember even today after 20, 25 years. So a brilliant academy was very less parallel, and was got very, very deep insight and passion for the economy and stock market. When he has scripted a book, all the passion and sincerity is reflected. Mr. Anantharaman has said, was saying that so many books are there, so many pundits read, but when it is written by somebody who is so sincere and passionate, that has become a piece of value, great value. And my good friend, Mr. Thomas, he is in our community, entrepreneurs. And we have been working together for long. Now he has moved out of our community. From the banking, non-banking sector to banking sector. So I believe that with his entrepreneurship, even in very difficult times, we have seen him taking this ship in the right direction. As Mr. Rajendra said, yes, it is not very far away. Mr. Paul Thomas becomes another Chandrasekhar Ghosh. I had the occasion to travel with Mr. Chandrasekhar Ghosh and stay in South Africa for around 10 days. You are absolutely right. He was he had his family also with his son and wife. So it was the time when he got the license for bank. His MFI was not converted into a bank, universal bank, but he got the license. So he had he was in the mindset of organizing things. So when we were together, he explained how he wanted to transform his MFI into a bank. And looking back, whatever he has told, he was able to realize. So similarly, I have seen in both of us also. We used to talk, and he is able to realize. When he got the banking license, yes, I was having some. I was looking very keenly how he transforms his company. I don't know whether you are aware. The first small finance bank in the country is actually started with my check. If I have not written that check, it would not have been there at all. It is not that bank is called Equita Small Finance Bank, where I was a founder director. So I was very keenly looking at what Thomas is going to do. With that experience, difficult experience for Equitas, I thought not to apply for small finance bank, so small finance bank, because We also own the third largest MFI in the country today. We own around 96% stake, 96. That is Ashirwad Bank. So, but he has successfully converted that as a small finance. And as Mr. Ajendra has rightly put, his ability to raise CASA. And now we borrow from him. So, these two great people of Thrissur. So, here's Mr. Anantharaman. We all consider him as a guru. So, he will not misguide anybody. Any entrepreneur of Thrissur would have sought his advice at some point. And he guides the entrepreneurs in the right way. So, I'm sure, with his long experience, he will not stop with one book. This should be a motivation. The grand success of this book shall be a motivation for others also to write their experience. And I'm sure he will come out with more and more. I wish you all success. And he has to pay more. And I wish my good friend Thomas also. His IPO. I wish the grand success. As I'm not an investor, I'm not investing. But I'm sure all those who are investing, it will definitely fetch good result. Thank you, Dr. Xavier, for inviting me, even though I am a member because of COVID, I am not at the meeting nowadays. For sincerely and continuously inviting and ensuring that I am here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that very warm portrait of the CATS Anantharaman and Mr. K. Paul Thomas. Thank you. May I now invite Mr. P.K. Vijay Kumar, IRS retired and a managing committee member of TMA. In fact, one of the pillars of TMA, to come to the dais for the felicitation.
Good evening, all the invited guests on the dais and off the dais. It's actually a great privilege and honor for me to share the dais with such great banking veterans and veterans of financial institutions. My own association with any bank as a director is only for 3 or 4 months. But I have always been a great admirer of bank and banking job. And myself and Mr. Chandran, we were students of St. Thomas College. The general impression was that those who have got some influence would get into either Catholic Syrian Bank or the Indian Bank or the Lakshmi Bank, depending on the influence that they have, or even the Ringadi Bank or Lord Krishna Bank. But I did not have much influence also Mr. Chandran, so we did not get any job in the bank. So ultimately, Chandran joined as a sub-inspector of police and became an SP, and he got an IPS also on that. But about Mr. PM Jose also I must mention. When I was a student, he was my senior. He got a direct officer at Indian Bank, and that was a moment which was widely appreciated. And then the principal, Reverend Dr. Thomas Mukherjee said, "You should all emulate Mr. Jose." He himself feels that it is not work. No, you were really a role model for all the students at that point of time. I hope it continues now. And so with that, I also wanted to join as a bank officer, but somehow or other it did not happen. And I landed up in revenue department. First, I worked with indirect tax.
I'm sure you have lost anything.
I am that. Yes. So due to certain fortuitous circumstances, I landed up as an IRS officer, and then, to be honest, I should say that my love for banks slowly began to disappear because my initial experience with bank, I'm talking about the 1980s, when I was in the investigation wing where I was in charge of investigating into the bank accounts and unaccounted money. I had a feeling, and the feeling was actually substantiated also to some extent. The banks and the bank managers are encouraging unaccounted money. And this is because of the experience that most of the income tax rates that we conduct, the businessman immediately says, all these things are with the bank. When we try to take them, like threatening and all these things are with the bank. And we have seized, recovered fixed deposit receipts from the chamber of bank and from the locus of bank, unauthorizedly they were keeping. So there was a time like that. And the very same bank, surprisingly, of which I am a director now, LSU Bank, it was also, there was an income tax raid in the office as well as in the residence of the managing director of LSU Bank, at that time chairman. And income tax department initiated penal proceedings, penalty proceedings for having unaccounted income, unaccounted deposits against the bank. For the first time in the history of the income tax department, that penal proceedings are initiated against a bank. So the income tax return, that director managing director who signed the income tax return was to be prosecuted. And ironically, last year's income tax return for the NSV Bank was signed by me. As there is no managing director, and I am one of the 3 committee of directors, and the other directors are outside. So I have to say, I only wish that there is no income tax, so that nobody asks me any question. If I could have put in a word to the income tax officer here, just to proceed slow, that's also is not possible now. It has become faceless assessment. So the income tax assessment of the LSV Bank will be done by somebody in Tripura or in Punjab, and somebody from Punjab will be doing the income tax assessment of Manappuram and Isao Finance Bank and all, because it has all become very faceless. But again, as things went by, I always feel that the public, the society at large, has got tremendous love and affection for bank officers. Because bank officers and bank managers, they give money. They treat you as God. Because you help the poor people. What about income tax? They are only trying to take the money from you. So that is their respect for an income tax officer is out of fear and not out of any real love or anything like that. So that is also evident once you retire. Why should you respect him? He's retired, he can't do anything. So that is another thing. But fortunately for me, as I told you, God has been kind to me. After retirement, I got a post of insurance ombudsman. So revenue has got to banking and insurance, and I have now been associated with both. So in insurance, as insurance ombudsman, my job was to give relief to the persons who are denied benefits by the insurance companies. I always have a feeling that insurance companies have a tendency to give big promises and then not giving. When I used to say that they have got the 2 avatars, like the Devi, with all the 4 hands and lotus and all. Now, when they come to you for taking policy, they speak very sweetly. And when you want a benefit from them, they take the avatar of Durga, a tongue protruding and with the swords and the skulls and like that. So, but almost most of the complaints which I could deal with, I have been giving benefit for the policy holders. So I used to tell them also, insurance companies, that for 35 years I was in income tax department. I was actually collecting from the people. Many of them have cursed me also. So with this case, now I am giving them back. In this 2 to 3 years, I am giving them back. So now also I have got an opportunity to give it back to them.
You want to collect them back?
Yeah. Yeah. So then coming to the 2 persons here who are being honored, of course, Mr. Anantharaman again has been a great role model for me. As a young boy who was in pre-degree St. Thomas College, I have seen him as a very young person. And as I told you, there were no girl students at that point of time. Otherwise, it would have been so difficult for him to manage. Everybody would have loved with him. So once, and that St. Thomas College, he was a men's college.
There was a nearby college.
Nearby college, he was not old enough to walk through there. He was always there. Although he wanted, he never did that. So he would be watched. So that is it. So Anantharaman, of course, he didn't know me. I knew him. He was known to everyone, and he was a real genius and intelligent person. And now he has written a book. And I have only one thing to tell him. Mr. Xavier has exposed many of your money-making things. Better you consult a chartered accountant or file a revised income tax return. Anything to be included so far. It has been made a public secret by Mr. Dr. Xavier. So that is in a lighter way. And of course, Mr. Paul Thomas, as you were telling, I also wish he not only becomes the richest person in Kerala, he becomes a billion-dollar billionaire in the years to come. And ISAF, its name is ISAF Small Finance Bank. I would just compare Dhanlakshmi Bank and ISAF Small Finance Bank, just for your curiosity or Dhanlakshmi Bank was started in 1927. So it is now almost 94 years. It has got 250 branches and around 1,750 or 1,800 employees. ISAF Bank was started 3 years ago. It has got 500 branches and 3,000 and odd employees. We compare it. Catholic Syrian Bank, CSB Bank, sorry, it should not be told as a Syrian, because the Syria word is actually anathema to probably so one should not say. So South Indian Bank and CSB. CSB has got, I think, around 400 plus, if my memory serves me right, and around 2,800 employees, whereas South Indian Bank has got 900 branches and around 7,000 or 8,000 employees. We have got Federal Bank, which has got 1,000, more than 1,200 branches and 12,000 employees. Definitely, I would say that the best well-managed bank in Kerala, no doubt. And I had an occasion to see the income tax returns of all these banks in the 80s when I was a young officer. And I had pointed out many mistakes and many cases had gone up and other things. Of course, CSB Bank is now very stable. The same cannot be said about the Dhanlakshmi Bank, but definitely better they will come for the Dhanlakshmi Bank. Dr. Xavier is a great admirer of the Dhanlakshmi Bank because he has got many shares, and he always is ambitious, expects that the share value will go. Definitely, the share value will go up. And for your information, I would say that retired CGM of State Bank of India, J.K. Shivan, his name has almost been approved by Reserve Bank. But they have asked us to go for an EGM for the first time in the history of banks in India, that an MD and CEO being appointed before appointing, he has to undergo vote of confidence or by the shareholders. That is because of some unpleasant incident which happened, and an MD and CEO was ousted also by the shareholders. So, of course, I don't want to dwell at length on that. And subsequent to that, the bank got very bad press, very bad publicity, because people also thrive in negative publicity. Most of these journals, papers which are published from Bombay, they had published certain things. One, it says that the person who lost confidence or who lost vote in the annual general body meeting, he may come back. They said he may come back. How is it possible? People who give such reports, they do not know the fundamentals of Companies Act. That's why they make such, I should say, stupid statements. And there are some people who believe that, yes, he will come back, he will come back. How can it be? Just like after the loss of election in US, President Trump even now says, I continue to do this. So these types of attitudes should definitely go. Sometimes you get very bad press. Now, of course, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan is also being like, South Indian Bank is also getting a very bad press. Not, of course, press at least through WhatsApp for some type of deposits. And people also want to enjoy this bad publicity, and it goes around and results in a lot of bad adverse publicity for the bank. So, having said about all the banks, I would also say something about Anantharaman and Manappuram Finance. Manappuram Finance has got, I was telling about the branches and all. Manappuram Finance has got almost 5,000 branches and about 25,000 employees. No comparison with any of these. The Manappuram Finance is the company which pays the maximum amount of income tax under the Commission of Income Tax. Although there are so many banks here and so many others, it's a great honor for them, and it's a great honor for me because he was the one who made me a director for first in Manappuram Insurance Company immediately after I laid on my office as insurance ombudsman. So after that only, I would say that that was a precursor, and I am also thankful to you, sir, for taking me as a director in this. So, and I wish Mr. Paul Thomas to his bank also to come up like Bandhan Bank and things, and it should also grow. He has got a clear vision, and with that, I don't think anything is impossible for him. And he's one person who believes in helping the marginalized sections of the society. Such people will definitely be helped by God also. That's what I believe. So it's a great occasion for Dr. Xavier. And one thing about Dr. Xavier, he was the director of John Mathai Center, where he was like a headmaster. Of course, he did not have a cane, but otherwise he was actually trying to put fear of God in all the students, and even on the faculties, including me. So I was also a bit scared to talk to Dr. Xavier because he was my boss. But I never knew that he has got such a tremendous sense of humor. The speech today was interspersed with a lot of humor. And for the first time, I think after becoming the president of TMA, suddenly humor has dawned on you. It's very good. Please continue with that. So with these words, I also express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Xavier for having given me an opportunity to share the dais and with such great banking experts and stalwarts, and also like Anantharaman, who I should say that he has been striding the field of NBFCs, especially the old NBFCs, like a colossus, I would say like that, because his home, what is it? Of course, earlier I only knew one home, that is this home, but now I know AUM also means assets under management, because after going to the bank, many of these short for and other things about security also you were telling, and now I go through all these things, and even at night sometimes I go to bed at 11 o'clock. My wife and children ask, "What are you doing now?" I'm only going through all these important terminals, all this. Should not cut a sorry figure for the others, because I didn't have much banking experience. So with these words, I also again once again I express my sincere gratitude, and also to all the members of esteemed members of TMA for patiently listening to me, and wish you a happy year.
Thank you, sir, for the warm felicitations. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the institution of the TMA Aquastar Green Project Award, which will be awarded every year to a worthwhile green initiative. May I invite Mr. Ceo of past Honorary Secretary TMA and MD and CEO of Aquastar to hand over the check of 2 lakh rupees to the President of TMA. Institution of the TMA Aquastar Green Project Award. Thank you, Sejo. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the reply speech by the, if I may so call, the honorees today. First, we have the CATF Anantharaman, past president TMA, whose book has just been launched here today. Sir, before I hand over the mic to you, I'd like to draw attention to the webinar you had conducted in somewhere around April or May last year. And you had repeatedly enjoined us to buy shares, invest heavily in the market at that time. So surely that was a call to time the market, and in contradiction to what our guest of honor, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, said today, that we cannot time the market. So I invite you to come forward and talk about that as well.
President of TMA, Dr. Xavier, what can I tell about you? I can talk 10 minutes about you, but I'm given only 10 minutes. So thank you for the wonderful words that you used introducing me. Chief guest of the day, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, Managing Director of Churchill's largest bank. So we have lots of folks on you. We are all major investors in the bank. I'm a large shareholder, bondholder, everything. Lots depends on you. Mr. Rajendran, I have no words to describe I don't deserve the praise you said, but thank you very much. You played a role in converting a 400 crore bank into a 4,000 crore market cap. When you took charge, 50 crore capital, 5 crore shares, 80 rupees was the value. That was 400 crores was the market cap. Today it is 4,000 crores. 10 times. Mr. Nandagomar, the largest wealth creator of our place, and undoubtedly one of the largest wealth creators of our country. Not many instances to quote, but there is lack of time. Otherwise, I'd go more. Mr. P.K. Vijaykumar, now leading the Lakshmi Bank, one of the finest officers of the Income Tax Department, who is widely honored and respected even after his retirement. Unlike what he said earlier, you continue to be respected by everybody all over. And of course, Mr. Paul Thomas, I would consider him as the biggest potential wealth creator of our place, and wish you all the best for the IPO. And my good friends on the dais, Vinod Manjira, our senior vice president, very, very close friend of mine. Pratap Worki, the honorary secretary of TMA and the director of his institution as well. Yes. When I stand here, there have been very few occasions in my life when words fail me. There have been very few occasions, but I think today is one such thing. The words talked about all the distinguished guests here, esteemed guests here. I really do not know how to live up to that expectation. Thank you very much. That's all I can say now. Friends, when I completed the book, I got it printed. Of course, I'll tell a bit about it after a couple of minutes. I wanted a simple release of the book by handing it over to the institution with which I'd like to be identified more in future. I somehow consider TMA as an institution closest to my heart. So before talking to anybody else, genuinely Xavier, I called Xavier and said, yeah, Xavier, I've written a book, just got it published. I'd like to hand over one copy to our library before I talk to anybody else. That is all what I said. Everything else is, I never ever imagined a function like this for release of the. I can't express my gratitude to you, Professor Xavier, my very, very intimate friend, to Mr. Ramakrishnan, who had the good feeling to sponsor this event and make it such a fabulous event. Ramakrishnan, let me tell you, it's the first occasion I am coming out after March 14th. You have made it happen, otherwise it could have been possibly an event through Zoom only. So thanks for sponsoring such a wonderful thing. And thanks to each and every one of you for coming in such large numbers and giving that nicest feeling to me. About the book, it has been in the making for 5 years. Actually, myself and my elder brother is very, very dear to me, Mr. Pattabhiram. I think most of you know him there. We were on a holiday in Kodaikanal, only the two of us. We go with family, but that time somehow I think his wife was away or something. So we, both of us went there. And he was telling me in the evening, when we had a small drink, he was telling me, you have been writing in Manorama for 15 years. I was the first one to start a share market column in Manorama. I wrote the column for 15 years. You have been an academician. I've been teaching in a number of universities in India and abroad. You have been in business. You have been in the bank. You run the Cochin Stock Exchange for 2 years. I was the National NSE Executive Board. With all these things, why don't you write your experience? Why don't you put it in writing? That's the first time the thought came to my mind. And I have dedicated the book to my brother. The first page, when you open the book, it is to my brother. He is no more. That's one of the biggest regrets in my life. He passed away 1 year back. He was only 73. So it was him who made me write that book. And so the idea came to my mind, and then I started thinking about it. There are, as previous speakers mentioned, there are so many books on it. Then I was just thinking, how can it be a bit different? I didn't want an academic book. What is a share? What is an equity share? What is a preference share? How do you apply for a share? There are hundreds of books available. But you know, this about 25 years, I've been invested for about 30, 40 years. And actively in the market for more than 1985, I landed in India. So that's after my assignment with United Nations and all that. So 35 years, I have been very actively associated with the market. And there have been hundreds of experiences in dealing with the customers of all colors and all types and varieties. So I just thought, why not make it a very practical one? Narrating some of the examples and experiences of working in the market. And the type of questions I would have addressed, without exaggeration, 500 investor gatherings in Kerala. Without exaggeration, could be more. And all over India, definitely in South India, every major center, I have arranged investor gatherings and addressed them and got questions from them. So looking at all these types of things, I just thought probably I should write it. When I wrote it, I wanted to include many, many more examples, but you know, the printer wanted to remove some of them. But there are so many experiences and examples that come to my mind. I just narrate one or two just random that comes to my mind immediately. There was one guy in Trachur, a top academician. He was Dean of Agricultural University. He was my customer. Many of you will know him, but I am not naming him. So I asked him to buy. He used to come to me for advice. I told him buy 200 NIIT shares at that time. That was about 60 rupees or so. After 6-7 years, he knew it has gone up here. He never monitored the market. So he came to me, asked me to sell the share. It was 2,200 rupees at the time. So we sold what he bought for 55 or 60 rupees, sold it for 2,200 rupees and gave him the check. It was mailed to him. He came to me with that check and he said, Mr. Anantharaman, you have done something bad for me. What is it, sir? I thought it was a good price. No. He's a PhD from America. He is a Dean of the Agricultural University. I worked for about 40 years. I always said value for money. But for the first time, I think I have lost value for money. I paid 50 rupees, I'm getting 2,200 rupees. That is one thing. About Manappuram, I have to give you one example. Only because some of these were mentioned during the speech, I just thought I would mention this. Anantharaman came out with a private placement at 25 rupees. This was 2-3 years after listing at 25 rupees. So I placed a lot of that share because I always had faith. One of my customers, I called him and said, why did you buy this share? 25 rupees. At that time, it was very thinly traded, about 12, 13, 15, 20 rupees, not much of trade. I told him, why did you buy this? Because you are a long-term investor. He's a doctor in Trachur. Again, I'm not naming the person. He said, at this moment, Raman, I don't have money. I said, I have a division whereby I have a bank account. I take money from the bank, give it to the customer, charge him the interest of the bank, and then he gives, I put it back. Exactly that. I don't touch that money. I got him 10 lakhs from the bank. And he bought 40,000 shares at 25 rupees. The real life experience. After 1 year, the share price started going up from 25 rupees. It went to 30, 40, 50. I told him, look, you bought it by paying interest. Now you can repay everything and get some profit. He said, no. I'll wait. It went up to 80 and 90. I may be wrong by 5 or 10 rupees, but about 100 rupees, he said, now you just repay the bank, sell enough share and repay the bank loan. And he told me, sir, you also take 10,000 rupees because you helped me. So you should take it as a fee. I said, no, I get my brokerage. So he repaid the bank. Balance share he left. At one time, the balance in his account, he did not invest 1 rupee. The balance shares in his account crossed 6 crores. One share. This is no story. This is real life. I can narrate you 1 hour, 2 hours non-stop things like this, but I don't have the time. I can. So I just thought I should put some of these experiences. I have narrated some of them. The example Mr. Rajendra mentioned of Kittens is again another person of neighboring district. He got shares. We started buying at 4 rupees, 3 rupees like that. Up to 30, 40, average cost is about 25, 30 rupees. I didn't buy too much, I had a few shares, that's all. But this friend of mine, he bought 1 crore shares. 1 crore. You have to take special permission because at that time 15%. If you exceed, you have to make a public offer. So you bought 14.99%. Then SEBI relaxed it. You can go up to 25% before you make a public offer. So that time he started buying more. He got 24.99%. 1 crore shares, average cost was about 28 to 30 rupees. That share cost 1,000 rupees. So this I have narrated with the dates, examples of this one item in the book. Of course, I changed the name because that's not my intention. So each and every page of the book is from practical example. There are customers who come to the office. These days, there is not much of trading. I'm talking about late 90s and early 2000s, mid 2000s, 2005, 2006, that period. People rushed to the office in the morning because there are about 40 chairs. There will be, say, 60, 70 people coming. So they rush to get a chair near the terminal. And I've seen customers who say, buy 500 ITC. Then somebody sitting will say, ITC is not doing well, why are you buying it? Okay, then sell 500 ITC. I'm telling you, it's not incident which are happening. So I've tried to narrate many of these things in the book, mainly from practical experience. So I'm very happy that it has been accepted very well. When I placed an order for a large quantity for one of the leading broking houses here, because the company was willing to give me slightly larger discount. So he said, can you place the order? I placed the order. Then they said, we are run out, sir. Wait for a few days. The second print is on. So I was very delighted that it was. As already mentioned, today I got a message from Amazon and my publisher that it is already within about 7-8 days of entering the register. It has become one of the largest selling books. It was, I wonder which I deserve that praise. I really do not know. About the book, first time it's very difficult to just a message. I'm sure some of you might have written already. For me, it was a first attempt. A lot of frustration, a lot of excitement. Many times I gave up the project half the way, but my wife is sitting there. She was the one who always said, no, you can do it. So after shelving it for 6 months, I again take it up and somehow I can complete it. It's an exciting experience. I think many of you have wonderful things to narrate here. Well, I'm sure can have many things that you have experienced. But start early. There's one thing I would say. Because today, I feel like I think I have to do more, but I wonder, I doubt if I had the energy to do a second time. Because the first time is very difficult. I do not know how to reach a publisher. I had no idea. I do not know anybody except Anantharaman and Motherboard, but their access is Kerala. So I asked a friend of mine, I invited him here, he's our own man, Mr. Ram. He's a writer. So I asked him, sir, do you know any publisher? He gave me 2 names. I wrote to both of them. There's a format. An introduction about yourself, a brief outline about what the book is, and 1 or 2 chapters. This is a docket that every publisher asks. I never knew that. So I sent these to Luckily, both of them said they would publish it. And another friend referred another name. I gave them also this docket. They were also very keen. Then, of course, I discussed with some of my friends. There's a taxman as a better reach amongst the community that this one would address because they are very much active in the securities examinations. So that's how I chose this. So it was a lot of difficulties in the initial period, but it was quite exciting. So those of you who have ideas, I'm sure many of you have that capability. Start early because it takes time. It takes quite some time by the time you finish. A lot of things I wanted to say. There is no time, so let me conclude. I should thank God first because I have very firm faith in God. Every day I don't start my day without my substantial prayers, and what little has been achieved is by absolute surrender. I just tell myself, I'm a very keen student of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, I can narrate half of Bhagavad Gita by heart. I read it every day. The key lesson there is surrender. Otherwise, when you surrender to a superpower, that ego definitely goes down. It is not your merit. It is something else. You are only an instrument. That type of feeling, I'm sure, Bible or Quran also have the very same message that you are only an instrument. So then the feeling you get is very nice. When somebody tells you the nice words, I know I don't deserve much of that, but next, you're very happy, no doubt about it. I should definitely thank Mr. Ramaswamy sitting here, who was very kind enough to go through the book thoroughly a couple of times. Correct language. English is not my first language. I speak Malayalam Tamil. A reasonable understanding of the language is there, but he is a real master. So he has went through very carefully, made lots of corrections. And my daughter, Divya, who is familiar to many of you, she is a professor of accounting. She is a PhD from Columbia University in US. She's a professor in America. She has helped me substantially in seeing it from an idea form into a published format. I should definitely remember her. Of course, I've talked about my wife without whom this would not have been possible. I want to remember Akshay Agarwal, my colleague in my company, who was kind enough to go through it in the initial stages. And of course, the publisher, who has been very helpful in taking you through all the procedures. And Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, I was a director of the company for a while. I just wrote to him. He's a very busy man. He's one of the largest brokerages in the country. I called him one day and said, Murali, I've written a book. I would be very much thankful to you if you can write a forward. He said, yeah, send it over to me. And I sent it over. Within 72 hours, he had read the complete manuscript and wrote this forward in such a wonderful way. I don't know how he gets started. I've written forward for 2-3 books. I took 2 weeks to write those forward. There's a book written on Nandagoma, which has been a bestseller here. And I was fortunate enough to write the forward for that book. There's a book available in the bookshop. Beautiful book. I had the privilege of writing the forward for that. I took 2-3 weeks. This gentleman, who is 10 times busier than me, within 72 hours, he wrote the beautiful forward, which is part of the book. So eternally grateful to him. And beyond everything, my mother organization, PMI, who has made this one of the most memorable days in my life. I am very fortunate. God has given me much more than what I deserve throughout my life. Definitely, I tell that with all sincerity, honesty in my mind. God has given me much more than what I deserve. And TMA is giving me honor much more than I deserve, and for organizing such a wonderful, memorable function. I will never forget. Thank you, Xavier. Thank you, Ramakrishnan. Thank you, the galaxy of speakers who were so kind enough to speak such wonderful words, which will remain with me throughout my life. And for each and every one of you to be physically present here, cheer me up and giving me the greatest honor, one of the greatest honors I have seen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That was deeply touching. May I now invite Mr. K. Paul Thomas, Vice President, TMA, for the reply speech.
Good evening, respected President of TMA, Dr. Xavier, veteran, my senior bankers, gurus, adjutants, Anantharaman, Vijay sir, Vinod, Pratap, our senior past presidents, members of managing committee members of TMA. So I've taken up this responsibility of vice president this year, and suddenly, even when I saw the group, I saw my picture, and there's a caption honoring it. I was wondering because Professor Xavier didn't give a clue even. So I received this award for the bank, the Global Sustainability Award in online. So because of the COVID, it was an online function. It was instituted by the Energy and Environment Foundation. It is a Indo-Australian foundation. It is mainly to honor the people, individuals, and organizations making a positive impact on the environment. So we have been, I don't want to take much time because I spoke the GSA story many times in TMA, and we already heard great scholarly speeches from all the guests here. And Chandrasekhar Ghosh is a good friend of mine. Many years we have been working as in the MFI space. But I will not become ISAF Bank. ISAF shareholders will be wealthiest, definitely. But I'm not going to be that position will continue to be held by Anantharaman sir for many years after it just in Kerala, definitely. So because ISAF is structured like that, it's a community ownership structure I made. So personally, I don't have much stake. So I'm not. It was designed like that. Okay. So when we started, sustainability is an integral part of ISAF. Without sustainability issues, ISAF will become a pure financial intermediary. So we started as an NGO. We all know that from the early 90s when we started. We had a sustainability program called, the name was different. It was a natural resource management program we had. So that we continued even when we become an NBFC also. So many of the questions when we got the bank license, the media, when I interacted with the media and all, the major question was, will you continue with those mission, your sustainability, all those, and it was difficult. I know that in an NGO, retaining sustainability focus was easier, but when it in a commercial institution like a bank, it is difficult. But one thing I can, from my experience, I can share that if you have an internship, you can definitely do that. That's my I set up a sustainable banking department from the day one, and many banks doesn't have such a department, and people doesn't. My banking colleagues have never understood. People who join from other banks have initially been understood why we are having a department like that. And we are the first bank to become the member of Global Alliance on Banking on Values, EABV, from India. ISA was the first bank. Now we have only 2 banks. So I strongly believe that, and most of the MC members are business involved in business. And today's world, sustainability is whatever business you do, sustainability is an important factor to fix it. And sustainability have business case also. So maybe in a later date, sometime later, we can discuss that in detail. So sustainability is all about talking. So for us, we have a triple P approach: people, planet, and prosperity. Earlier it was 2 years before I taking membership in Global Alliance on Banking on Values. It was called profit. We changed the profit to prosperity. So all these 3 is important for sustainability. People are important, the planet is important, and how we create prosperity among the stakeholders. So it is not only about your shareholder, it is about your employees, about your customers, about your people living in the community. It's all important. So we wanted to, so we work and we put measure. We have financial projections along with we have social projections, and we have the carbon emission reduction of carbon emission targets we set, and we have a environment policy, and the protocol has been designed. And last year we started auditing of the branches. So 18 branches are green banks now. That certificate we give, green bank certificate. So it is about not only about setting the agenda. So we need to set the specific goals. So we have social targets for each branch. There is financial target is there, social target is there. So that is how it is being implemented. So today, all European investors, most of the European investors value the sustainability focused institutions. It's called ESG, environment, social and governance principles. And even customers today value sustainability. People wanted to, while making a purchase decision, they wanted to know how it is being produced, where it is being produced. Even financial investors, we know that when we launched the bank, we launched a product, deposit product for their deposit. So that was an innovation we did because of our sustainability practices. We did that innovation, so that we will, along with the depositor, will get the financial returns. Also, we will share the social return that money makes, because we share the data with the depositor where the money is being invested or where the money is being given as a loan. So that way, there is a case, so people are willing to invest. So we set the people focus that is there. Planet focus is still there around through financing clean energy products. We reduced 40 million tons of carbon emission over the last 3 years. So UN certified agency measured it, and it was included in our annual report, and a sustainability report is also being published. Now we are trying, many chartered accountants are here. So we are exploring how this can be included in the balance sheet. So unless it is included in the as a balance sheet item, it cannot be noticed by the investor, because nobody is going to read. Generally, those who are, unless they are very keen in sustainability issues, they will not read the sustainability report, but they will read the financial statement. So we are exploring how we can do that. So that is the way forward. So thank you, Xavier sir, for initiating this. I consider this as a great honor. It is more than the award I received from the foundation online, because whatever something is getting that nobody knew, but some recognition we are getting at our hometown is definitely very important. Thank you, Chairman, colleagues, for organizing this, and also all the good words talk about ISA. We are grateful to that, and I look forward to continue to receive your your advice. All our veteran bankers. I'm not a banker. Before I started, I knew only borrowing money from banks. That was my relationship with the bank. People used to wonder. So I get a lot of advice. Don't worry, those who are deposited money in this side, don't worry. FD is coming and saying that I learned banking, so I learned everything. There's still some more to be learned, but there are learned bankers are with me, so that's not a problem. So thank you once again for patient listening and your question. Thank you. Sorry, I wanted to congratulate Anantharaman sir for his wonderful book. And I am sure I've not read, but I will be reading. I'm not a stock market investor, but after reading this book, I'm planning to start investing. From I decided while thinking it, I decided. And I also request you to sir the transformation of CSB. I think you are the right person to write that for the future generation, because 100-year bank, how it has been transformed, how it is the value has been created. Specifically, see, we as Trishurians, we need to be proud, because when we go out and meet, only people know all about Trishur, but still Trishur is called as cultural capital of Kerala only. I think the TMA should take some initiative to change that. Okay, let it cultural capital be there, but along with that, it has to be called as the financial capital of Kerala. I wish all the best to Anantharaman sir to write many books for the next generation to continue to have your wisdom. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you also for expanding our understanding of the concept of sustainability. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the presentation of mementos. I invite TMA's president, Dr. V.M. Xavier, to step forward. The first memento will be presented to our chief guest, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, MD and CEO, South Indian Bank. May I request our chief guest to step forward? Thank you, sir. And now for the next memento, may I invite our guest of honor, Mr. CVR Rajendran, MD and CEO, CSV Bank Limited. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to pull down the curtains for the vote of... It's time to pull down the curtains for the vote of thanks, Mr. Pratap Darki, Honorary Secretary, TMA.
President Dr. Xavier, dignitaries on the dais, and sorry, time is we overshoot the time. I'd like to thank our chief guest, Mr. Murali Ramakrishnan, CEO, South Indian Bank, for spending time with us and this address. I'd like to thank our guest of honor, Mr. CVR Rajendran, MD, CEO, CSV Bank, and a wonderful speech. Thank you. I'd like to thank V.P. Anantharaman for being with us, all, even though he's so busy with his schedule. I will thank and congratulate T.S. Anantharaman, and I'm proud also to say that he's one of our directors. And after he's joined our organization, we started paying dividends. I'd like to thank my dear friend Paul Thomas and his excellent success, and I wish him all the best for the IPO. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Mr. P.K. Vijaykumar, IRS retired managing committee member, as he likes to be called, but MD of Untitled Bank. I'd like to thank Ceo for the award. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Vinod Manjula. And of course, I'd like to thank the main person of today's night, Dr. Xavier, for the effort he has done. The entire credit goes to him. We just wish to get the program. Thank you very much, sir. And I think it's a wonderful start. Thank you all members for being with us tonight. I'd like to thank Ramakrishnan VP Sharewell for sponsoring this program. Ranjan for the MC. I'd like to thank Harry Regency also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pratap. Ladies and gentlemen, before we conclude for the day, a couple of announcements. Before we proceed for dinner, all the managing committee members are invited for a photo session with all the dignitaries. Secondly, a copy of the book, Manappurathin and Mantriga, is available for distribution to the audience today. Please pick it up on your way back from the function. Lastly, ladies and gentlemen, please do join us for the dinner, which is arranged back at the back of the hall. Thank you all. You've all been a wonderful audience. Thank you.
Good.